are collecting the final piece, right? You're collecting the book itself. That's what people collect mostly. Most of us don't have the money to buy an original Gil Kane or an original John Romita Sr. piece, you know? So we're like, you know what? How about we take the comics and blow them up and make them to like these huge posters and overwhelm people with just how powerful the medium is, you know? And Damian Duffy, my very good friend and co-creator of this show called Out of Sequence, we got it in our heads. They wanted to do a show that was an answer to, you know, the Masters of American Comics, right? Because we're thinking like, instead of thinking like this, we should think like that, you know? So we got in our heads to go to the Credit Art Museum at the University of Illinois, and we talked to Kathleen Harleman about, who's the director there, about doing a show. And we brought in all our little charts and graphs and all our little heavy graphic novels, and we're saying, you know, comics are awesome, and we should do a show, and we obviously didn't think that she was going to go for it, right? And about 14 minutes into the presentation, she's like, you know what? Yes, we're going to do this show. And we're like, what? Wait, I didn't even get a chance to do the chart thing, man. You know what I mean? And so what ends up happening is, you know, we were like really excited. She's like, okay, you guys have 2 years, 2.5 years to do it. We're like, okay, that's great. So then we're like taking all our books and stuff on the like high-fiving on the elevator, you know. And then we realized we actually had to do the show. Wait a minute, we never curated a show before. I don't understand even what does it even mean, you know. So we actually did this practice show at Jackson State University, and not to actually ghettoize black artists, because we definitely didn't want to like segregate. You know, we actually wanted to talk about diversity, but we ended up doing like a show about you know, stereotypical images or like archetypical images, and we opened up this show called Other Heroes at Jackson State. And it was supposed to be a small show, you know. And I wrote a grant to actually get some money to do the show. And for $20,000, they gave us $3,000. And that was nice of them. Seriously, it was really nice. Okay, so we got $3,000. And I went to Jackson State. I taught there, so you know, I knew the gallery director and stuff. The gallery was one of those old school galleries with carpet is on the wall, you know. And I was like, okay, because it would seal up the holes, you know. It's smart, you know. You nail it in and take it out, it's gone. It's just a carpet. But what happened was we didn't have money for glass, so basically we mounted everything to foam core and we used Velcro. You know, so put it up like that. You know. Also, we didn't have a lot of pedestals, so we built pedestals out of comic book boxes. I was thinking, so we could use the idea of the comic to actually curate the show, and it made it actually a stronger show. You know, we showed things in comic book bags, like you would see in a comic book store, you know, that kind of thing. And instead of like 12 artists, we ended up with 48 artists and 148 pieces. The Associated Press got a hold of it before you knew it. You know, it was a success, and actually extended the show, and people came to see it, and it was great, right? So that was our practice show for Out of Sequence. Okay. It was a cool show. I mean, it was great to go home and do a show like that. You know, we also published a catalog, which you can still get online. It's expensive. It's like $67. For some reason, when we got the ISBN for this book, we self-published it through Lulu, and we actually, all the proceeds for it were going to like Scholarship America, and it was earmarked for people who were affected by Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. And so I think it turned out really good. And I was excited about it. I was proud of the show. And we found people like Fonzie Davis. We're still looking for Fonzie Davis, actually. This is a funny story. Fonzie Davis is actually this really obviously talented artist out of Columbus, Ohio. And he works with this company called Meat House, you know, and he does performance art. He does like this kind of like graffiti and that kind of thing. And when we did the show for Out of Sequence, he just kind of vanished. We got the work, we got the sheet, like the sign-up sheet and stuff. And to this day, we still can't find Fonzie to actually give him his original artwork back. And the registrar is losing their mind still to this day. Like, where's Fonzie? She's always like, every 3 months, she's like, have you heard from him? So Fonzie, if you're out there, we'll make sure you're okay. They have your artwork at print. So anyway, but yes, this stuff is really interesting. What I'm getting at is that, you know, we found this whole world of artists that we didn't even know about. You know, people, I see stuff online, and of course, I had never pulled a show together like that. So I'm like, how do you do that? I mean, how do you know? So I mean, so we just started just finding people's work that we were interested in, and just putting together the show. And we still use the work. And actually, Fonzie's in the book too. Now, I even wonder has he even seen that book. But anyway, so Outer Sequence was a show that we did at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Again, we started thinking about this idea of the medium of comics and how it persists, you know, depending upon where you put it. You know, so basically, if you think about Scott McCloud's idea about comics, if you start juxtaposing images, you project a story onto it, whether it's non sequitur, abstract, what have you. If you look at like Jacob Lawrence's work, or, you know, The Great Migration, right? It kind of, if you see in the gallery space, it's a comic, you know. If you, or even with the idea of curation in general, I think, you know, is you're building a story from different disparate parts, you know, which basically like, you know, works with my kind of hip hop sensibility of like remixing things, you know, or juxtaposing things, you know. And so the idea was that you would walk into this space and you were walking into a giant comic book. Okay, that was the idea. And so the story about the diversity of the medium, not only who was doing the comics, but also how they were done. You know, so we looked at like, you know, abstract comics, like like basically, have you seen that book, Abstract Comics? Andre Molitu, a good friend of mine, put this book together from Fantagraphics, and it basically it takes the idea of the comics medium, you know, the formal aspects of it, and it abstracts the images into non-objective images. It's great, you know, it's beautiful stuff. It's formally lovely, and I love the idea. So we actually had some of his stuff in there. We had people like Stan Sakai, who does like Usagi Yojimbo. He still actually does like hand-done lettering. We had the first Native American syndicated cartoonist, Drummond Echohawk was in the show. We had Colleen Duran in the show who did this really wonderful piece called A Distant Soil. We had Trina Robbins, who's actually in our symposium, and she's do women's comics back, and she's like groundbreaking underground comics artist, and she's calls herself a comics historian, and she's telling her story instead of his story. So, you know, something like that. This is Leilani Hickerson right here, very talented artist. She's African American and Filipino, and she writes. Her and her sister work on this piece called My Hafu, talking about biraciality in Japan, and so it's very much in that manga style. The pieces that you see are her comics that her and her sister put together, but we obviously they're like movie poster size, they're really big. And the idea too is looking at the process of the comics too. So she actually did this movie, her and her sister did this movie of her coloring process, because a lot of people know how comics are made too. You know, it's like you just see the object, and just like anything in capitalism, to a certain degree, process is erased. You just see the object. You consume the object. You don't know about who's being heard, how the methods actually produce the object. You know, so we wanted to kind of demystify that. So we actually had a piece where we had the script, we had the original art, had the finished piece. So you can see the connection between how these things were made. We had original art that we got from the Smithsonian Institute, all over the place. You know, the comic the Comic Research Library, which is like one of the biggest repositories of comics. That's at Ohio State University. We got some stuff from there. And it took us 2.5 years to do this show. And it's the biggest show, probably the most diverse show on comics that no one's ever heard of, because it's in the middle of a cornfield. They travel around a little bit, but for the most part, you know, definitely not as much attention as the Masters of American Comics. Let's see. As you can see, we had this kind of thing where we had these bevels. So it was like 3, 5, and 7 inches from the wall, so you actually kind of had this little cool feeling going on with that. We had a reading room, or a reading space, so that people could sit in the space and actually read comics, you know, because we wanted to make sure that people understood that these are meant to be read. We also had screens up that were being projected. So again, we had these digital comics and all kinds of stuff. And so this is the kind of stuff we wanted to do, you know, with the show. So while we were doing that, and we're picking up pieces for both shows, I went to the East Coast Black Age Comics Convention. There's this portal, and again, I did like a lot of screenshots of web portals, because a lot of the underground black comics that are being made are accessible now, like through the web, you know, because I like this idea of the website becoming like an index for the culture to a certain degree. And so this gentleman named Omar Bilal started this comics portal called the Museum of Black Superheroes, right? And you go to blacksuperhero.com, there's a forum, and there's a lot of really cool things. He actually has a virtual display of all these African American characters from mainstream, from everywhere, and he's compiled these together. He curated